What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 93, and this is week 22's review, part two. With me tonight, the circumstance. He's my roommate. He's the commissioner of this fantastic league, Ben Nisman. Benny, Tuesday in the playoffs, round one. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling great, Joe. I'm just excited to be here. It's amazing to be in the top six out of 16. Tons of guys wish that they could be in this spot right now. And most of all, I'm just proud. I'm just proud to be the commissioner of this league. It's been such an incredible season. And we got a long way to go. It's going to be a crazy last few weeks, and yeah, it might go in a blink of an eye, but there's just a lot of the story left to be told. So let's continue on, Joe. As always, I say, set the table, lead us off, my friend.
Let's get going, boys. And you know what? We're going to rip the band aid off right away. We're going to talk about Frank Bucco and Mike Sherman here. Mike Sherman taking a 13-7 win and essentially, not essentially, factually ending Frank Bucco's season this year with this win. He does get himself over 500 with this win and knocks Frank to seventh. On Sunday, doubles were tied, and Frank did, in fact, take those. That was the only change. So, close categories. Frank wins by those two doubles, two walks, the error, and 10 ticks on the on base percentage. Sherman wins by three strikeouts and the save, and they tied in triples with zero. For Sherman on his bench, Benjamin, he goes 10 for 38.
Okay. Um, 268.
263. Damn close. With 9 runs, four doubles, two walks, and eight strikeouts. The four doubles is the only thing that plays, obviously, but trying to get two of them and three of them in to flip it sounds like a little bit of a task. There was one Jeremy Pena play on Tuesday that would have gotten him at least one of them, but it's hard to get in, and that is what it is. His moves this week, he only had three of them. He added Gabriel Arias over 4 with an RBI, a walk, and a strikeout. Dropped Clark Schmidt for Jake Diekman, a clean relief appearance with two strikeouts, and dropped CNL Perez for Taylor Saucedo. 2/3 of an inning, a homer, a walk, 27 and a 3 with a relief appearance. That's it. His MVP this week, who else would it be? It's Ronald Acuna, 360 with a 448. 6 runs, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, a steal, 4 walks, and a strikeout. It is somewhat coincidental, but it's also apropos that Ronald Acuna is the guy knocking out Frank from the playoffs this year on this particular team. The least valuable hitter is that Gabriel Arias player. Not sure he did too much. He didn't even get a hit, but an RBI, a walk, 4 strikeouts, and 0.77 on base percentage. The Cy Young, I'm giving to Ian Jabot. He's the only guy who got a save in this entire matchup, so he did that. The Cy Young, I'm giving to Taylor Saucedo, who was bad. For Frank on his bench, he goes 2 for 10.
Weird. Okay. Cool. Here's one for five, 200.
It is a 200. With a double, two RBIs, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts, none of it plays. Uh, his moves this week, he dropped Tyler Anderson and Xavier Curry and added Isaiah Campbell for a clean inning. Added Kevin Kelly for a third of an inning and a relief appearance. And dropped Tyler Holton for Hunter Renfroe, 2 for 4 with an RBI, a run, and a walk. He dropped Hunter Renfroe for Matt Manning, 1 inning, a walk, a strikeout, a 2 whip, and left with a broken foot after a comebacker from Giancarlo Stanton at like 119.
Oh,
So that stream became nothing. He dropped Gregory Santos for Tyler Holton, 2 innings, 3 strikeouts, a 1 whip, and a relief appearance. He dropped Matt Manning for Daniel Palencia, who did not appear. He dropped Isaiah Campbell for Zach Thompson, that he didn't play, which was a bluff. He dropped Daniel Palencia for Donovan Solano, 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs. Dropped Tyler Rogers and Zach Thompson. Added Tommy Canley for a clean relief appearance and a walk. Dropped Donovan Solano for JP France. 6 innings, a win, a bomb, 5 walks, 5 strikeouts, a 150 and a 150. Dropped Jose Urquidy for Matt Waldron. 5 innings, a loss, a bomb, 2 walks, a strikeout, a 720 and a 120. His MVP this week is Alex Bregman, 385 with a 414, 5 runs, 4 doubles, 3 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout. The least valuable hitter, Whit Merrifield or Eloy Jimenez. Take your pick. 053 with a 136 for Whit. No hits with an 077 for Eloy. The Cy Young, I'm giving it to Glasnow. 6 innings, a win, a walk, 14 strikeouts, a 150 and an 067. The Cy Yuck is Jordan Montgomery. 5 2/3, a loss, 2 bombs, a walk, 6 strikeouts, a 794 and a 159. This is one of those moments where we have to take inventory of Frank Bucco's season and find out exactly what it is that we can talk about here about a stat and a half, because it boils down to a stat and a half. He missed out by just that much.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, Joe. I didn't see this coming. I don't think many of us did. We saw Frank in the race or at the top of the standings most of the year. And his gameplay was fairly solid, especially in this week. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But what needs to be kept in mind here, and this is something that Henry wouldn't know or Adam wouldn't know, and maybe a couple of guys didn't even realize, but last year we found out that it was only what, 6 over 500 or 5 over 500 that you needed to get into the playoffs was Ari as the number 6, and I was maybe what, 8 over 500.
Correct.
Okay, Frank Bucco was 33 games over 500, but you needed to be 36 or better, which was what Bobby was, to get into the playoffs. I mean, this is very, very unusual, as was last year, but it's just a shame. There's really no other way to put it. I can't help but feel bad for the guy because out of the 5 seasons that Frank, or 4.5, if you want to say that 2020 isn't a full, this was the best he's ever managed by far, from bell to bell, from week 1 through week 22. And even in this particular week, I was seeing so many logical plays. Like even on Sunday, with your season on the line, and he sits Eloy Jimenez. And you're thinking, well, he traded for the guy. Why would he sit him? Well, the reason why was because Mike Yastrzemski had the late night game. And when average and on base were close, you kind of have to see what you got and what's going on throughout the day to know if you need that ninth batter. Well, unfortunately for him, and this really isn't his fault, Paul Goldschmidt didn't play on Sunday, so he was already down a batter. And then Eloy Jimenez doubles. And Frank told me, and I think he doesn't mind me saying this, when I spoke to him, he's like, when I saw him hit that double, I almost cried. And I've been there. Like, I've been there where it's like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I got it wrong. Like, for Frank, who hasn't played with a bench
Mhm.
for, I would say, more than 50% of the season,
Easily.
he right. So now he has the bench. He benches Eloy. He hits the double that he needed at that moment. He ends up getting the doubles he needs to take the category.
Mhm.
But at the time, he didn't know that that was going to happen. It's like, oh my God, benching this guy that I traded for, like, there goes my season. Really? Alas, that wasn't the case. Like, that wasn't the difference. But I understood the play. And then he has Mike Yastrzemski for the night game, which he needed. He needed walks. He ends up getting that category. He needs a triple. Joe, I'm watching this game. Mike Yastrzemski hits a ball that is going into the gap and is getting run down by the outfielder. The ball bounces and takes a funny hop and skips the fence and goes over for a ground rule double. Now, If it skips, taps the fence, and comes back, that's a three bagger. Like 100%, that's a triple. It's so weird that like it was a matter of centimeters, not even, for this to be a double versus a triple. Now, if he takes the triple, he still just misses. But it's really unfortunate how everything unfolded. And I go back and I wonder, like, was not having a bench part of the issue? Like, we'll talk about the trades in a little bit and probably later on in the show. But sometimes I personally would rather have the bench and leave stats on the bench than not have a bench because at least they're on your team. At least maybe tomorrow you get it right. If you don't, maybe you get it right on Friday. They're out there on your team and they're not on somebody else's team doing damage as you watch that. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather watch a player do damage on my team on the bench than do damage on another team that's competing for a playoff spot. So there's a ton that we can get into here. But the fact of the matter is, Frank walked into the wrong team this week. And we kind of felt like this was a trap match.
Mm-hmm.
Sherman's no joke. Like, he beat you this year. He trounced Jason Ashby. He beat up on a lot of good teams. He's 5 over 500. He's got Acuna. He's got a good team. And the fact that he had Acuna and Albies, and then Frank has Michael Harris, they almost kind of cancel out each other. So having Harris wasn't even going to be that beneficial as long as the only way that he would be is if all three of them are bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's good chance that either all three of them are good or they're all bad, but more than likely 2 out of 3 are going to be good, and one of them's one of the best players in baseball. So that was going to be tough right there. And Frank pitched poorly, and it started that way. Like he started the week pitching poorly, and he was playing from behind. And Mike Sherman could just watch and just inch his way to the minimum, and benching all his pitchers on Sunday obviously made total sense. Sherman had a goal in mind, get over 500, knock him out of the playoffs, make an impact. This is the most impactful thing Mike Sherman has done since winning a championship in 2016. This is something to remember. This is something we'll always remember. And on the other side, it's just another lost season for Frank. And 33 over 500, it's something to be proud of. But like, I'd rather be 33 under 500 than missing by a stat and a half. He worked so hard this year, and I feel like he did learn a lot. But at the end of the day, there just may have been a few too many decisions that he misjudged, or I don't even know what, but it just turns out that like when you miss by a stat and a half, yeah, you can pinpoint so many different things throughout the season. I'm sure he can,
Mm-hmm.
but this is the best management he's ever done. Maybe not his best GM showing for 22 weeks, but as far as management in the game, like throughout the week, what he's going to do with his team that's on his current team, this was the best that he's done. And yeah, I feel like this is just it's a eerie moment because we all were pretty sure this guy was in. And then all of a sudden, even week 21 stomps out Costas. We're like, okay, that was enough to do it. But I guess none of us really thought that Henry would like skyrocket against Scott Costas in the final week, or that Bobby would double up Adam. And he didn't even do that. He didn't even have to double him up. Like a 12-7 win was enough against the 13-7 loss to Frank. It's a very, very peculiar final week of the season. I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again.
Frank wins 6 of his final 8 weeks and misses the playoffs. He wins 6 of his final 8, but loses this matchup here. The only other one was a loss to Mike Haver. He was one of the hottest teams in the league coming down the stretch and misses by a stat and a half. I, my heart breaks for him because he's been so devoted to this.
Yeah, you're right. As far as managers go, you put him right at the tippy top of most committed managers.
Oh yeah.
That he's admitted that his fantasy team means more to him than the Atlanta Braves. And he's not the only one in the league that cares more about his fantasy team than his actual baseball team. But that just goes to show the passion and the
Mhm.
love. And it just anytime he says that, he's paying a compliment to me. He's honoring the league. He's saying this is such an amazing league, this non-money league with 16 guys and 21 stats that gets more competitive and more interesting every single season. And he falls that short. That short. It's so weird. Yeah, we can get into the trades and stuff, but that and a half, I mean, you can't predict anything like that. I
No.
can't even believe it.
It's just heartbreaking. And yeah, we could do we will do a show about all of the trades this year after the season is over and recap all of the things that went down this year. Got many, many shows that we're going to do for that in the off season. The fact is, Frank just has that season. Now, here's the thing I will say. A stat and a half was what somebody missed out on in 2019. Who was that?
Well, I think see. I thought that well, there was Chris Levy and Jimmy, right? And they
Right.
both barely missed. I think like maybe one missed by a stat, one missed by a stat and a half. I know myself in 2013, Sherman missed by one stat and I missed by a stat and a half. We were seventh and eighth seed and we just missed. And I
Okay.
remember that, but 2013 is now like a long time ago.
No, the
And like it does
2019 season is the one that sticks out in my head because of those two guys who were our
okay.
finalists in 2022.
In 2022,
Yes,
Jimmy and Chris Levy.
exactly. They felt the heartbreak and then got to the finals 3 years later. In fact, Jimmy felt it twice
Yes.
with the tiebreaker with
Tiebreaker.
Costas.
Yes.
You don't give up in this league. And this is the type of thing that could galvanize Frank into I'm going to win this league one way or the
Mm,
other.
yeah, yeah. Now, let me ask you because we're getting into this matchup and we're gonna probably get into it even more. But now, and it's just like it's all like hindsight. But Frank hasn't played with a bench for a lot of the season, like
Right.
we said before. Hayes. Hayes is not a guy that's been on his team for that long, right? Like at most 4 weeks.
Let me
Sound
see
about
how
right?
long. Let me see when he picked him up.
Okay. The point that I'm trying to make while you go ahead and do
August
that.
1st. August
Okay,
1st.
August 1st. So it's okay, so it's a little bit more than 4 weeks. But it was a decision that okay, this is gonna be one of the guys that I'm gonna be floating around in the outfield, in the utility. He's gonna play sometimes. This is a guy that unfortunately this week, even though he did bat 308 and 345 and he helped him win on base percentage, 10 punchies. Now that's the difference between winning or losing strikeouts. If he finds that those hits with one of his other guys, his regulars, and then they don't take that many strikeouts, maybe this is a different score. Maybe it's 12-8 instead of 13-7.
Mhm. And
So
when it's a stat and a half, that matters.
that matters. It's really unfortunate. And it like I said, it's all hindsight. I went through the whole season being like, oh my God, if I just played this guy instead of this guy, and then on Wednesday I make the flip and it's wrong again, and we talk about Oscar Mercado, Tommy Pham, the flip flop of
Mhm.
2019. And it this is not the case, because it's a guy that played without a bench for a lot of the season and then added the bench. And there probably was some tinkering going on and guys being left on the bench. But in essence, like when we look back, on the several weeks, there weren't a ton where you said this would have played, this would have played. Most of the time with Frank, none of it played,
None of it
right?
played if he had anything on the bench to begin with.
Right, right. So again, it's sad. I do feel badly for him because I know how much this means to him, but it's not like he's walking away from the bigs. Like he'll be back. He needs a break from the bigs. Like it's good that he'll get this time to I don't want to say mourn, but like recoup and get ready for 2024 because you know he will be back guns ablazing and he'll be hungrier. And unfortunately, and I hate saying this, but I, I think that there's still some work to be done in his game in order for him to reach that next level.
It wasn't all that long ago that Frank was in the finals of the Bigs in 2020. And I remember him talking about his success in fantasy football as well around that same time. That he had won a couple of leagues and was defending championships. And it was a really good time for him. This past season, in the fantasy football league that I played for 1 year, and by the way, still had the best record in the league, but Frank was a finalist and lost by about a point and a half
Yeah.
in the championship game.
Yeah. And this is after he had won 2 years in a row, and then he went for a third year in a row, lost in the finals, and then lost in the finals again in back-to-back seasons in fantasy football. Now, this is a guy that's going to the finals 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So
he,
he gets his opportunity now to take a break from baseball, take a break from the bigs, go back to essentially what he's even better at than he is here. Go win yourself a fantasy football championship. Get yourself off the schneid here. Rub this one off. I know it hurts, man. I know it does. But you're going to dig yourself out of this. And just remember, Jimmy missed by a stat and a half in 2019 and then a tiebreaker in 2021. And that guy won a championship in 2022. Don't
well
be
said.
discouraged here.
Yeah, it's only the beginning. I mean, he's been in this league 5 years. 5 years. He's got a playoff appearance under his belt. He will have more in his future.
No doubt. No doubt. Let's move on to the next matchup here, Benjamin, and we are going to take a look at another lifer here, Bryan Lebo, getting himself a big old win over Matt Loosee, 17-3 this week. On Sunday, stolen bases were tied, and Lebo took that. Losses were tied, and Matt took a loss, so Lebo wins that one. Home runs were tied. Matt gave one up, and Lebo took that. And Matt led by 2 walks by a batter, or I'm sorry, 2 walks by a pitcher, and he gave up 7 of them. So Lebo wins that as well. Close categories. Matt wins by 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. Lebo wins by 2 triples, 2 stolen bases, 5 innings pitched, a loss, a home run given up by a pitcher, and 2 relief appearances. They tied in wins with 4. For Bryan on his bench this week, Benjamin, it is a 5 for 13.
Hmm. Not ideal, but obviously it didn't really matter because he kicked ass in average and on base and basically every single offensive stat. I'll go with 347. Was even better.
385.
Yeah, I thought it might be even better.
385. 4 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, a walk, 5 strikeouts, and an error. None of it plays. None of it plays. It was that good.
Hmm,
And I believe he used all 12 moves this week. He dropped
nice.
Kirby Sneed for Jimmy Herget for a third of an inning in a relief appearance. He dropped Jock Peterson for Luke Raley, 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Dropped Luke Raley for Elvis Andrus, 2 for 4 with a run and a strikeout. Dropped Carson Spears for Brandon Fott, 3 and 2/3, a loss, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 7.36 and a 2.18. He dropped Brandon Font for Alex Wood, 2 1/3, a loss, a walk, 2 strikeouts, a 1929 stock market crash, and a 257 whip. He dropped Andrew McCutchen for Brandon March, 1 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Dropped Elvis Andrews for Noelvi Marte, 1 for 4 with a strikeout and an error. He dropped Kevin Kiermaier for Ramon Urias, 3 for 5 with an RBI. He dropped Urias for Torkelson, who is now the name of the team, because 2 for 4 with 2 runs, 2 bombs, 4 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout. Not for nothing, man. Spencer Torkelson is putting up a really nice season, and he might be a viable first base candidate for somebody next season.
Yeah, they have some work to do to make the offense a little bit more scary around him, but I remember this guy being a very prized possession of the Tigers and a highly touted prospect. So it wouldn't surprise me if he takes even another bigger step next year.
Absolutely. He dropped Slade Ciccone and dropped Noelvi Marte for Luis Campusano, 0 for 4 with 2 errors. He dropped Brandon Belt for Ella Harris Montero, 3 for 4 with a run, a double, and a strikeout. His key players this week, starting with Bryan Hayes, was the MVP. 292 with 320, 6 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter is the former namesake of the team, Matthew Batten, 154 with a 267, 2 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and a strikeout. The Cy Young might be an AL Cy Young candidate in Kevin Gossman. 8 innings, a win, a homer, a walk, 10 strikeouts, a 1.13 and an 0.38. And his Cy Young is Alex Wood that I covered earlier with his stock market crash. For Matt Loosee this week, Benjamin, it is a 2 for 14.
1 for 7 is hmm. Is it 162?
143.
Oh, stupid. Okay.
A run and 4 strikeouts, and that's it. He had 2 moves. He dropped Zach Greinke for Luis Ortiz, 5 1/3, 2 walks, a 169 and an 094, and dropped Michael Kopech for Luis Medina, 4 1/3, a loss, a bomb, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 1038 and a 208. But he needed every single one of those innings to get to the minimum. So thanks for getting those 2 moves in, buddy. We appreciate you getting to the minimum every week. Much appreciated. That's all we ask for anybody that joins the league. It is the one demandant. That's all. The MVP this week, Brandon Lau. Oh, it's down here. 250
Oh,
with a
okay.
379, 5 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. His least valuable hitter was Nicky Lopez, who didn't get a hit with a 125 on base, a walk, and a strikeout. The Cy Young is Brian Bayo. 11 innings, 2 wins, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, a 491 and a 127. And the Cy Young is his teammate Cutter Crawford, 3 2/3, a homer, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, a 1227 and a 191. But you know what? Like I said, he got to the minimum 22 weeks out of 22. Thank you very much, Matt Loosee, for another season. Of all
Yeah.
of the seasons that have ever happened, this was certainly one of them. It wasn't the best. It wasn't, it might have been the worst.
Yeah, 141 under 500. 141 stats under 500. Gonna have a show to actually take a look at how Matt Loosey compares to other last place teams in this league through its time. But yeah, it might not be the record, but it's pushing it. And it's even more unfortunate because he did make his minimum every week. Like that was never a reason why he was taking all these losses. And let's not forget that after 2 weeks going into week 3, he was in first place because he had a really, really big week on Frank in week 1. So it's unfortunate, but I do appreciate the fact that he put in effort here and he it's interesting. Like you kind of need teams like this, just to kind of balance things out. It's amazing that we had 12 teams basically at 500 or better, so someone is going to fall in the bottom of the pile. So alas, it made sense that it was Matt because though the effort it was latent, but it wasn't like in your face, like constant effort the way you would see out of a Frank Bucco or Matt's opponent here in Bryan Lebo. Bryan's season, it's nothing but unfortunate. It was just a bad team. It was a tough draft. I feel like being the first pick was a big problem. The fact that I don't think he even knew how many how many guys are actually going to fall until it gets back to you, and then you better get it right on your two in a row. And
Mhm.
it's a tough spot to be in, whether you're 1 or 16. I would rather never, ever be in that spot. I did get to be in it in, I think it was 2012, and I went all the way to the finals being the 16th pick. But it's tough. It's a really, really tough spot. And I kind of felt like when I saw that he was in the number one spot, I was like, well, you could hit right on the first guy, but then you really need to build. Like you got to know, okay, I need to build this way. Like this, I'm filling up my rotation on this. I'm filling up my bullpen here. Like it was just a tough spot for him, and he made some unfortunate trades. I think also that really hurt him. The effort was there, and he was still playing spoiler. He was still a really great manager. Like with what he got, like with what he had, I think he did a really, really excellent job. It was just unfortunate, and he took too many brutal big losses right around the All Star break that I think made it official that he wasn't going to make a run.
Mhm. Yeah, the Michael Harris trade did just sort of blew up in his face the second Brendan Donovan got hurt, and Michael Harris just went off in the second half for Frank, which good on Frank for the eye, but
Great.
holy damn, what a terrible trade. Thank you to both of these guys, though they will not have any impact in the playoff races. We again appreciate both of your effort. We appreciate you guys getting to the 42 all 22 weeks and giving us one hell of a season. Thank you again. Let's move on to the next one here, Benjamin. We're going to talk about the other playoff implication here that affects the sixth seed. Bobby Russo taking down a 12-7 win over Adam Lowenstein. No changes on Sunday, so it stays 12-7 from there. So close categories. Bobby wins by 3 strikeouts and a loss. Adam wins by a double and an error, and they tied in saves and home runs given up. For Bobby on his bench this week, it is an 8 for 46.
Whoa, jeez. Um, that's impressive. Um, I think for 40 was going to be 200. 178.
174. 3 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, a walk, and 11 strikeouts. The only thing that really plays here is the 3 doubles. He could have had one with Willie Adames on Friday. Could have had one with Taylor on Tuesday.
Hmm.
He, you know, he's playing Anthony Volpe at shortstop over Adames, Lars Nootbaar in the outfield, I guess, over Chris Taylor. I would certainly recommend that, I suppose. It's the interesting one of Adames and Volpe that we again go back to. You traded for this guy and you're playing and you're benching
Yeah, yeah. Especially because he was running away with steals at that point. But it might have been a matchup thing, that
him.
Volpe was facing a much easier pitcher than Adames. I wasn't really paying attention to it. So that might have been part of the reasoning behind it. But every single decision Bobby had been making throughout the season and through week 22 was a carefully made decision. He was always thinking about his bench, always.
Interestingly enough, it was on Friday, and those two teams were playing each other in
Hmm.
Yankee Stadium. So he had that choice to make. His moves this week: he dropped Chase Anderson and Kyle Muller. He added Dominic Canzone, 1 for 4 with a double and a strikeout. He added Josh Rojas, 0 for 3 with a walk and 2 strikeouts. Dropped Canzone for Jake Rogers, 1 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Dropped Colin Holderman for Alec Thomas, 0 for 4 with a steal. Added Cody Bradford, who did not appear, and dropped Jake Rogers for Jeff Hoffman, an inning and 2/3, a win, 2 strikeouts, an 060, and a relief appearance on the bench because, and I quote, I forgot to get that guy back into the lineup when I benched Nola. It happens. It happens. MVP this week, TJ Friedel. to 333 with a 450, 5 runs, 2 triples, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Bobby set the record for the season this week with 5 motherfucking triples. 5. It's sick. Christian.
Yeah, I was talking to Adam Lowenstein. We'll get into his bench a little bit, but it's funny how Adam, and I'll spoil it a little bit, that Adam did hit a triple on his bench, and it still wouldn't have been enough. Having 4 triples still wouldn't have even tied the category.
Right. Bobby went off this week to solidify that category and solidify a good win for himself here. The least valuable hitter this week is Christian Walker, 172 with a 200, 3 runs, an RBI, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. The Cy Young, what the fuck is Justin Steele and why is he this good? 15 innings, a win, 2 walks, 18 strikeouts, an 060 and an 067. On the season, a 249, 16 wins, 159 strikeouts to 159 innings. Like, he's really good. He's
Amazing. He
really
was really
good.
good last year too, though. Like I remember streaming him a couple of times on like a Sunday night game that he was dominant for a bad Cubs team. And now you could argue this guy is the ace of the staff, like potentially leading them to the playoffs.
Bobby added him as a free agent immediately after the draft. Good job, Bob. Good call as your 27th round pick.
Yeah.
The Cy Yuck is Sir Anthony Dominguez, 2 2/3, a loss, 2 bombs, a walk, 2 strikeouts, 1350, 188, and a 3 relief appearances. All right, Benji, for Adam on his bench, he goes 15 for 57.
Oh, God damn it. Um, I'll say 218.
263, way off on that one.
Yeah, geez, I wasn't
Yeah.
thinking enough. Okay.
6 runs, a double, a triple, 4 bombs, 13 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts. Again, none of it plays because the triple wouldn't have mattered. He won homers and RBIs, steals he got blown out on, walks he got blown out on. So like
Mhm.
none of it plays. He only
Yeah.
made one move. It was Jonah Heim for Christopher Sanchez. And his MVP this week is Matt Olson, 545 with a 630 on base percentage. 8 runs, a double, 4 bombs, 8 RBIs, 4 walks, and a strikeout. The least valuable hitter is Jake Fraley, 182 and a 357, a double, an RBI, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. The Cy Young is Tariq Skubal, 5 innings, a win, a walk, 9 strikeouts, nothing earned in an 060. And the Cy Young, hey, Max Scherzer, you suck. 3 innings, a loss, 3 bombs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 21, a 267. And by the way, he got pulled tonight because he is having some tricep spasms.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Whatever the hell that is. So Bobby sneaks in as the 6th seed, a game and a half over Frank this year. Benji, how'd he do it?
We mentioned some of it. Justin Steele was a big part of it. As bad of a season as the rookie had, Anthony Volpe stole a ton of bases and probably won him that category a couple of times. And basically stuck with his guns on a lot of these players. A Corbin Carroll and a Lars Nootbaar. Nootbaar stayed on this team the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Friedel, like who the hell would have thought? And this guy was batting over 300 at some point. Yeah, he. I remember after the draft, Mike Haber and Jason broke down his draft. And I'm paraphrasing, but Mike Haber said that he is really trusting the youth of baseball. Like this is a very, very young team that he believed in. And I thought it was a big risk. And it was right. It ended up paying off. Um, this is now his second trip to the playoffs. He joined us in 2018, 2 playoff appearances in 6 years. That's a 333 percentage of getting into the playoffs. That's impressive. Like that's good. Like 2 out of 6 is good. Like you would take that anytime. I'm really proud of him, and I'm really happy for him because I know that he's pumped about it and he's stressed throughout the season. But he had an incredible win on Matt Loosee. I think it ended up being like 17-1 or
Mhm.
something. He stomped out Christian as well. Like he was having big wins on teams. And he took a 16-4 loss to me, but like he just made that not matter with a lot of the wins that he was having. 36 over 500. I mean, what an incredible year. You got to give him a lot of credit. And yeah, he really deserves to be one of the six here. I think he managed really, really well. There wasn't too many times throughout his season that we were like, ah, what is Bobby thinking here? He did it well. He didn't even have like an incredible Jose Ramirez season. He had a really good one, but did he really perform like that number three pick or whatever he was?
I don't know about that, but what I will say here is that Bobby alternated wins losses over the final 4 weeks. And I think he had an incredible draft to to the mindset that he came in with a plan. He executed the plan that he wanted to in the draft. And this is the second time in Big's history that we've seen him put down an opponent in week 22 and put himself into the playoffs. So each time he's made the playoffs, 22 week 22 was the difference.
Yeah, he had to be clutch. Absolutely.
Exactly. So,
As before we get more into Bobby, because we have a lot to get into there, I just want to touch up on Adam a little bit, who
sure.
did finish his season 3 over 500. Arguably, it probably should have been 4 or 5 if I was on top of his team that one time where he was away. Um, he did an amazing job. Like you consider the fact that his first four picks were Machado, Scherzer, Olson, and Yu Darvish. That's three out of his four. He hit on one of them. The other three were just flat out busts. Like Machado is your number one. That's kind of a season for Machado. That is a bust. Like Olson, I mean, he went over expectations this year and he's still going. But 3 out of 4 of them were that bad. It's going to be tough to get in the playoffs, and he still managed to get 3 over 500. He had Sawinski and the entire Pirates outfield at one point. He
Yeah.
made it work with like this Cubs combo with Swanson and Happ. Having Keibert Ruiz as his catcher, like that was really Gleyber Torres had a really arguably the most consistent hitter for the Yankees throughout the season. Thyroid Estrada. He stayed on this team the entire season. He was
Mm-hmm.
pesky and made some really interesting trades. Actually, I think he only made one, but it was to get Kimbrel and Alvarado, and he moved Stephen Kwan for him. Kwan had a really good season, but Adam wanted another closer. And once Raisel Iglesias came back, Adam was winning saves or tying it a lot of different
Often.
weeks. It ended
Mm-hmm.
up making sense for him to do it. So I give him a lot of credit here. He's had a really good season. Being 3 over 500 in your first season with us since his first since 2005. He joined us in 2005. He was the last place team. He was with me in 2003 and 2004 when I started this whole thing. Before it was even called the Bigs, but he was in 2005, and then he took a 18-year gap and then came back. So I'm happy that he joined us, and he wants more. He'll be back next year. As far as Bobby, what else can you say? Like he's an unbelievable manager, and he more than deserves to be in the spot that he's in right now.
There have been moments in the past where we have wondered if Bobby was going to be able to crack that glass ceiling that existed for him. Here it is. This is that moment where we can say, "Okay, Bob, you made it this far. Let's see what you can do in the playoffs again. You're not facing somebody like me. You've got Josh Haber. This is a winnable matchup for him. That's going to be a dogfight to the very, very end. So I'm hoping to see what we get out of Bobby in the playoffs this year. I'm really excited about that. Let us move on to the final matchup this week, Benjamin. It is mine against Christian Wood. I get an 11-8 win to finish out a 10-game winning streak to clear the season and get myself into the 2. for the 7th straight trip to the Final Four, the 10th straight year to the playoffs, and we shall see what else happens because that's only what's guaranteed. On Sunday, I had a triples lead and Christian grabbed it. I led in losses and Christian tied that. I took an L. And Christian led in strikeouts by a pitcher, and I flipped that by a lot. Close categories. I won by 4 home runs, 4 walks by a batter. No, that's a lot more than that. 4 walks by a pitcher. That's right. And 3 relief appearances. Christian led wins by a steal, 2 errors, and a win. We tied in triples and losses. For me on my bench, oof, okay, 14 for 41.
God. Um, 372. I don't know.
341. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. 7 runs, 3 doubles, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, a walk, 11 strikeouts. Somehow none of it plays. My moves this week. I dropped Andrew Kittredge for Michael Soroka, who was awful and left with an injury against St. Louis. I dropped Phil Maton for Trevor Richards, who gave up a 3-run bomb in his only appearance. Dropped Jack Flaherty for Sean Manaea, 3 innings, a bomb, a strikeout, a 6 and a 133 in a relief appearance. Dropped Giovanni Gallegos for John Brebbia, who gave up a bomb in his relief appearance. Dropped Michael Soroka for Emmett Sheehan, who was awful in Washington. Dropped John Brebbia for Zach Littell. 8 innings, a loss, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a 1-1-3 and an 0-7-5 in a 1-0 baseball game that the Rays lose against Seattle. Dropped Manaea for Kittredge, an inning, two strikeouts and a relief appearance. Dropped Richards for Nolan Shanuel, 1 for 4 with a walk and 2 strikeouts. Dropped that guy for Taj Bradley, 6 1/3, 3 bombs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, a 568 and a 126 against Seattle. And dropped Walker Buehler, who, rest in peace to his possibility of coming back for the 2023 season. They are shutting him down, and he is done. I dropped Taj Bradley for Ryan Yarbrough. 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, a 540, a 125, and a relief appearance against the Washington Nationals. And dropped Emmett Sheehan for Jack Flaherty, who was awful in Boston. Dropped that guy for Jesse Schultens, who was not great, and took the loss that tied the category in Detroit. All 12, 1 hitter, 6 starters, 3 relievers, and a bulk reliever. My key players this week: Kyle Schwarber, 381 with a 552 on base, 8 runs, 4 bombs, 6 strikeouts, 8 walks, 8 strikeouts, with a shout out to Jose Altuve, who put up 6 homers and 8 RBIs and 9 runs scored. Least valuable hitter, it's hard to find someone. Randy had a 100 batting average with a 280 on base, but 2 steals and 5 walks, so who knows? The Cy Young is Pablo Lopez. 14 innings, a win, 3 walks, 17 strikeouts, an 064 to 093. And the Cy Young is Spencer Strider, but there's a whole bunch of other options with Michael Soroka and Emmett Sheehan. And it was just a bad week on the pitching side for me, yet I still won half the categories. For Christian on his bench, he goes 3 for 15.
200.
It is indeed 200. A run, a double, a triple, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. The triple obviously plays, and it's from Max Kepler, who did not start the game, but tripled off of the bench as a pinch hitter, and that's just crazy.
Yeah, it's just against the Mets, right?
Yeah. Only 2 moves this week. He dropped Drew Smiley, picked up Alejandro Kirk 0 for 3 with a run, a walk, and a strikeout and an error. And then dropped Reese Olson for Dylan Dodd, 4 innings, a loss, a homer, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, a 9, a 250, and that was against Pittsburgh. His MVP this week, we're going to call Jose Abreu, 318 with a 400, 6 runs, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 2 homers, 14 RBIs, 3 walks, and a strikeout. The least valuable hitter is Max Kepler, 083 with a 154, 2 runs, a double, an RBI, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. The Cy Young goes to Zach Wheeler, 6 innings, a win, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, nothing earned, and a no 50. And the Cy Young is Andrew Abbott, who threw to a 1350. But a shout out to Mitch Keller, who had a 1440 and 2 bombs. Brock Burke was bad. It was just it was a bad week on both sides of the pitching, honestly. Honestly. Benji, what did you see here?
Well, I think you just took care of business. You did exactly what you were supposed to do, and I think you could kind of navigate how many stats you needed to make sure that you stayed at least in second place. I think you did a beautiful job there. Um, yeah, obviously not a ton of work from Christian. Unfortunately, Christian was not the same manager this year that he was last year. It felt like we were watching two different managers, and maybe there was a lot going on off the field. Maybe he had a lot going on, and this wasn't exactly the number one commitment, but that's kind of what I felt I was getting from Christian for 22 weeks. But Joe, what I saw is one of the more impressive comebacks I think you're ever going to see in the bigs. And it doesn't shock me that you're the one that could do it. I believe that you're probably one of, if not the only one that doubted yourself to get into the postseason. I'm on record as saying, like, I never doubted you for a minute at any point, especially knowing that you had me on the schedule. And I felt like that win was coming, and once it happened, did I think it was going to be 10 in a row? No, I didn't. But I felt like a run was coming and big lopsided wins were coming. Like that was without question going to happen. I'm going to run through some stats for you. 13 out of 19. That's a 684 into the playoffs percentage. I got one even crazier. 12 out of 19, 631. That's not 684, it's 631 is lower. 12 out of 19. You know what that is?
Is that to the final four?
You've
The
only
only
missed
one is
only
16.
one miss to the final four of all the seasons that you've been into the playoffs. 12 out of 19 seasons in the final four. Unheard of. A 631 final four percentage. That's incredible, unprecedented, and it's going to be a while for that to come down, because this is, I mean, 7 straight years into the Final Four. We say that's maybe more impressive than 10 straight to the playoffs, probably. Because it says either like you're winning playoff rounds or you're first or second each of those years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really is amazing. I don't need to stroke your ego any further, man, but it's certainly impressive, and it almost begs the question: is the bigs too easy for Joe Schubert?
I listen, I don't want to get into that. I don't want anybody to speculate that I might be leaving because you know what, y'all are too easy for. No. I'm here for life. I'm here for life and I love this. Um it's been an incredible ride and I honestly can't believe it was 10 straight. 11-7, 12-7, 13-7, 15-6, 11-8, 16-3, 12-8, 17-4, 14-6, and now this 11-8 to finish out the season and catapult me from 13th, where I was in week 13 when I faced you, to second to get that final four berth yet again. I am humbled and yet blown away at what I was capable of doing this year. I will never forget this season, ever, ever. This was a great, great season. And Christian, thank you so much once again for 42 every single week. 22 weeks, we got 42 out of this guy. It might have been a grind sometimes. It might have been a little bit difficult, but we got there and we appreciate you being here.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's move on to managers of the week, my friend. I have Jason's as well. So let's start
Okay.
with his.
Okay.
His number 3 is going to be Josh Haber getting his big win to put him in the playoffs, with a shout out to Bobby and Lebo for their big wins as well. Who is your number 3, Benjamin?
Got to go with Mike Sherman here. The acknowledgement to bench the entire pitching staff on Sunday, not to mention the fact that he was seeing that relief appearances could get chased once he grabs a couple. he forces Frank to think in a different direction. That relief appearances aren't going to happen. He's got to delegate his ads ever. And he actually had to make Frank think a little bit extra. Frank used all 12 ads. Mike Sherman only used three and still managed to get enough stats to knock Frank out of the playoffs. That has to be acknowledged. It is probably, besides maybe against you, which I don't even know if he even made that many ads, but probably Mike Sherman's best management all season.
It was an incredible show of managerial skill and a testament to the 2016 championship that should not be forgotten. That this guy is a
Nope,
former champion of this
nope.
league.
It's
He
right
is
here,
right
man.
there on there.
If they can say it.
2016 Mike Sherman, yes sir,
Nope, it's on this side.
right there. My number three this week is going to be Henry Collins, who gets a really large win, 14-6 over Costas Paragas to solidify his playoff spot as a rookie, gets the number 4 seed. Strong work from him. And it was just one of those like, I'm just going to hold Costas at bay because Costas had a very long shot of making the playoffs if he
Yeah.
had, won enormous and some other
Yeah.
things had happened. Just keep that dude at bay. Don't even let him think about it. You know what I mean? And Henry did that, did absolutely everything he could to lock that one down. Number two for Jason is Mike Sherman. So we're gonna, he says for being the ultimate spoiler. Great week of management as well. He is my number two as well. So I'm just gonna move right along to your number two, Benji. Who is it?
Henry Collins. This is obviously been impressing us all season, beating me, beating you, beating Mike Haber, beating Jason Ashby, 21 nothing on Ari Nisman, one of the original members of this league. And he just needed to do one more thing. And all he needed was a little win, and he did a whooping, like a major whooping to finish this thing off against a very good manager in Costas.
Mm-hmm.
And Henry, he did have some woes towards the end. Oh God, lost to Jason. He had a small win over Mike Haber, and then lost to Jason, lost to Bobby. Then he righted the
He
ship
lost to
against
Christian.
Christian. Oh, he did lose to Christian. Yeah,
He lost
so
9-8 to Christian.
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's
It
right. He
was
beat
it
him
was we
earlier in the
gotta
year,
we
but
gotta right this ship. He was just on
yeah,
the cusp. He was
yeah.
one of those teams that could be in or could be
Mhm.
out and
Yes.
stomped him out with a 14-6.
Yeah, and I feel like it was you talking to Jason after week 20, because I wasn't doing that review, but I watched it, and you thought that Henry, because he's got Costas in the final week, he might be the odd man out. How weird would it be that a guy that beat Joe and beat Ben and beat Mike Haber and beat Jason and won 21 nothing over someone and still missed the playoffs? It's the bigs. It wasn't an impossibility. It could have happened,
Yes,
but
it
he
absolutely could have.
he did what he had to do. He said, "I need a win. It doesn't need to be a huge one," but he just was like, "I'm going. Like I'm in this. Like
Right.
I am top
Please stamp my
six.
ticket. Give me my
That's it.
seat. I'm
Yep,
going.
I'm
Yep.
going."
And that's why Jason has him at number one. So it's really great work from him. Who is your number one this week, Benji?
Oh, no brainer to me. It's Bobby Russo
Yeah.
because you look at 2019. You mentioned that he needed a win, like needed a big win, in order to go to the playoffs, and he did it in 2019. He got a big ass win against Uncle Barry, and then this year Bobby's on the bottom. Like Bobby's in seventh place. Like he's on the outside looking in. Like he's got the least of a chance to get there, right? And he did it. Like he
Did it
did it.
again.
He got as many stats as he needed to get in by a stat and a half. Like he played this team like a fiddle. Like it was perfect. He did exactly what he had to do to get in. And you got to acknowledge the fact that this man found his way into the sixth seed.
I'm calling him the sniper this year. He sniped Frank Bucco's chances and got in by a stat and a half with a big win over Adam Lowenstein. He took care of business when he needed to and has been a really listen, he sat over the last few weeks, 12-8 loss, 10-8 loss, 17-2 win, 11-10 win, 12-7 loss, 13-7 win, 14-6 loss, 12-7 win. He's been metronoming like he does every single year, but he's done it a lot better to where the losses don't go as far as the wins do.
Right.
That
Yes.
17-2 win over Christian in week 17 was huge. And
Huge. Huge.
it stopped that
Yes.
two game losing streak.
And it was against the guy at the time that he was chasing and having to deal with in the playoffs. It was very, very clutch.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So shout out Bobby. You are also my number one. Benji, thanks so much for doing this with me, man.
Dude, it's a pleasure as always. And win or lose this week for me, it's really, I'm not going to be crying over it. Like, I really wanted to be one of the top six. And I got to say this, the six teams that are in this year are the six teams that deserve to be in there. Like, I really believe that these were the six best managers all week. And my current opponent, Henry, would beg to disagree. He kind of felt like he sort of dodged some trouble, but he built this team. Like, he drafted this team and he knew when to cut ties with certain players, like a Will Myers, and knowing this is not my left fielder, I need other options. And then he went and he got Profar, and then he tried to figure out his catcher situation. He had a lot of different choices there throughout the season, and yeah, he really earned this as well. So I'm proud. Like, I'm a proud young man right now because I'm amongst these six guys, and I feel like I earned it. Like, I deserve to be there with them. So win or lose, yes. Would I love to be in my third straight Final Four? It's not quite seven in a row, but three in a row would be pretty damn special. So I'll sign up for it. But just 3 years in a row to the dance, that's pretty damn special as it is. So I'm really happy to be there. And can't wait to do more. Win or lose next week. I'm going to be joining Jason on the podcast as you will be on
Be
your
in
way to
Atlanta
it.
with
You
Frank.
will be on your Yep, you'll be on your way to Atlanta. So I'll be looking forward to breaking down week 23, the quarterfinals, and then we still have the semis and the final show. We got a lot more to do, my friend. So can't wait to do it. Can't wait for more. I love this league.
Absolutely. Boys, it was a wonderful 22-week season. We have just 3 weeks to go until we crown the 2023 Bigs champion. I can't wait to find out who it is. I can't wait to see whose name will be etched onto that beautiful trophy that we are anxiously waiting to return from the trophy. Thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you making this league what it is. It would not be what it is without you, and we wouldn't have a show to make without the league. So it's all a testament to you guys. Until next time, guys, it's been real, it's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you next time.